Hey guys, good morning. Today's Monday, and I wanted to go ahead and cover the objectives for week three. The first thing that I want you guys to notice is that I've changed the format of the document. I hope that this makes life a little bit easier when it comes to copying and pasting. Um, Now, let's go ahead and focus on the computer lab. On the computer lab, these are the instructions. In your own words, explain and provide examples to the following. So, for example, um, I want you to explain what substantive criminal law is. I also want you to explain what procedural law is, um, common law, and case law. Now, when it comes to substantive criminal law, there's not going to be that many examples, and it's a very cut and dry definition to it. But I'm sure that if you guys do a little bit of research, maybe about 10 minutes of worth of research, you guys will be able to you'll be able to explain it with your own words. I don't want you guys to give me the actual definition. I want you guys to kind of start utilizing some of these words in your own thoughts and in your own language, to because I want you guys to kind of start developing your ideas and being able to formulate your thoughts of a particular subject outside of what the book or outside of the formal definition, because there's going to be times that you're going to have to explain this to common people, not to people that are experts. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want you guys to learn what the proper definition is. I just want you to be able to be well versed in being able to put things that you learn into your own words, and also being able to have um, a conversation with someone that's at the same educational level as you are. Um, so that's what that's the whole goal of the computer lab, is that I want you guys to look at substantive criminal law and be able to identify the specific characteristics that fall under that, and the same thing with procedural law. So just to give you a little bit, just to kind of connect dots a little bit for you, we have criminal law. Criminal law is its own subject. And so then within criminal law, it breaks off into two very distinct areas. So, for example, we have criminal law, and it breaks off to one path is going to this substantive criminal law, and then the other one goes into procedural law. Both of them uh, originate from criminal law, but they function in one side or the other side. So, in other words, substantive criminal law, uh, it's it's concerned with what happens prior to the act being committed. It gives us the guidelines of what it's supposed to be before. Then, when we talk about procedural criminal law, then we're dealing with what happens after substantive criminal law has been fulfilled. So once we've opened the door to substantive criminal law, then we're able to go into procedural law. But they're both still under the same umbrella of criminal law. So criminal law is here, it splits into two. We have substantive criminal law before, and then procedural law, which takes place afterwards. See, I just explained that in my own words, but if I were to give you the specific definition, substantive criminal law defines and illustrates all the law and punishments. That's more of a specific definition. And then when we talk about procedural law is concerned with the specifics of how to search and seize someone, how to arrest them, and how to properly continue to guide their criminal process in the courts, and it comes down to interrogation and all those. So those are more specific terms for those two areas. One in my own words, and then the other one which has a little bit more technicality. Then when we talk about common law is almost like saying that it's an inherited law. In other words, common law was something that was passed down from generation to generation. Common law marriages don't necessarily come with a marriage license. They don't come with all these fees and actually having to go to the courthouse or go through a church. Common law marriages, basically what it says is that if someone has fulfilled a certain amount of time in which they have been together, plus they live together and they have a certain amount of kids, by law they're considered to be married, even though they've never set foot in a church and they've never gone through to civil court to get married. Now, just to be clear, in California there is no such thing as common law marriages. It's something that in California we don't have that tradition, because there's some states that are still they run the judicial system um, the old school way. There might still be some common law in the books, meaning that there may still be a couple of common law practices that are in the books that are still observed. It doesn't mean that they're any worse or any better or any bias. It's just a specific category of laws that a particular group of people still deem to be valuable. And then we have case law. Now, case law, it's a very interesting topic. Case law actually is super controversial for a lot of people. And that's because case law is something that is connected to a term that a lot of people don't like, and it's called judicial review. Um, I will be making a video about case law, and I will be making a video about Terry versus Ohio, and I'm going to be making several videos that deal with case law to kind of give you guys a broader understanding, because all of these type of laws are very important for you to know as a criminal justice student. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go and let's talk about outside hours. So your outside hours, I wanted to break this down to the more fundamental concepts. Now I want you guys to consider a few things for this project. So hear me out. So the direction is this. It says provide a perspective, opinion, and commentary to the following questions. Provide proper sources to support your claim. Now, I placed a link that explains what a perspective, opinion, and commentary answer or work looks like for a college student. So I hope you use it as a reference so that you're able to explain and express yourself in a way in which this is going to become fun for you. So because these are real great questions to kind of consider. So for example, many companies are monitoring employees to see how many and what type of phone calls they're making. Companies also monitor emails and what websites their employees access. So I'll give you a perfect example. For example, myself at work. There was a time where I was able to use YouTube all the time. As a matter of fact, there was a time where I was able to use Netflix all the time. And I was able to use these two platforms because, as you know, sometimes if we have a mod end party, or we're having some type of celebration, like let's say it's Mother's Day and it falls on a Tuesday, or I don't know. Sorry, I just thought of Mother's Day because it just happened, but Mother's Day usually is on a Sunday. Let's say it's some type of holiday, and we're on campus, as we most often are. And that day we choose to watch a movie. I was allowed before, maybe like a year ago, I was allowed to use Netflix. Now, if I wanna, I can't even access Netflix anymore because the school's network doesn't allow me to, because the school has decided that utilizing Netflix is not in the best interest not only of the school but the students or the instructor. And so then that's them monitoring me as an employee on what type of uh, emails or websites that I'm able to access. It's the same thing with my emails. All my emails are um, filtered through certain red flag searches, and this is also obviously because I'm a representative of the school, that I'm not giving opinions perhaps on political views or on any other type of opinions and views that are directly attached with the school. Because at the end of the day, I do represent them, not only as an educator, but as an expert in my field. And therefore, me having my own opinion can, and being outspoken about it through email or through websites, it has a form of censorship. If Yeah, form of censorship. So the question now is, do you feel that this is inappropriate? Obviously, we can have a open-minded discussion and be able to give a good opinion with the knowledge that you already have. However, I don't want you to be that type of person that you give opinions based on what you've heard and things that you've overheard and whatever Chewy told you and all those things. Because what ends up happening is that we end up giving opinions based on someone else's opinion that are not founded in on facts. And that's and as an educator and as someone that wants to instill some of, I want to instill in you not only just knowledge but the ability to do research. Law enforcement requires several methods of research, and being able to obtain all of this information based on research and being able to give that back to another person and filter it out to their level of understanding. Kind of like how I do with you guys. I have all of this great knowledge that I have, and what I do is that I continue to do research to ensure that what I'm telling you is still accurate, but then I have to build all of that knowledge and I have to formulate it in such a form in which I have to be able to give it to you guys, which is for you that it's easier to understand. Obviously, if I'm talking to another cop, I'm gonna, or another someone that's an expert in the field, our conversation is gonna be a little bit different, and there's probably gonna be some things that I don't have to cover that we're both on the same page. So, do you feel that it's inappropriate? Now, obviously, if you say yes, I feel it's inappropriate, I would like for you to source your opinion through a factual, academic based um, outlet. Okay, so for example, like the New York Times, Washington Post, the Sacramento Bee, or some type of the New Yorker, some type of reputable document. And obviously, you can use your book as well, like your book. May very well cover this or any of the other books that you already have in your Kindle. But I would like for you to gather some viewpoints of other people and then for you to formulate your own opinion and then being able to respond to it. Don't just go out of your heart. because I want you to be a non-emotionally attached individual answering a particular question that some people have a different stance on. There's some people that say, hey, it's okay if my employer reviews all of my emails. You know, it's their email, it's their network, and you know, I should be held to a higher standard because I work for them, and yada yada yada. But in the other hand, you're gonna probably have another individual that says, I have a right to privacy. And I think that there is an expectation of privacy that should be protected as a U.S. citizen, and so on and so forth, right? Both of them are legitimate arguments. Um, you know, we do have a constitution and we do have uh, laws and regulations that are afforded to us. And sometimes, you know, we, the individual, allow how much freedom we give. Um, you know, if we allow for our employers to be able to monitor our emails, and we allow for them to dictate what kind of websites or what kind of platforms I can use, then what's next? Next thing you know, they're going to tell me how I dress, how I can speak, how not to speak, what to use, what not to use, and so on and so forth. So we kind of like, once we open the door, we kind of, it may have, you know, a downward spiral type of effect. So where do we draw the line? And in the other instance, you know, do we want to be a society that always has to be fighting for their rights and freedoms when it comes to the expectation of privacy, which is a very important thing to have. You know, all of us have the right to privacy, but all of these things change. So I would recommend for you to take the time to, you know, have configure your own thought in your own and develop your own opinion. Now the next one says recently programs such as Dateline, NBC has been establishing sting up programs to catch sexual predators using computers to contact underage children. Do you feel that these efforts are legitimate, or do you feel that they are entrapping these individuals? Now, if you see, I've underlined entrapment or entrapping. Entrapment is when a government entity or some type of entity has produced an atmosphere in which it leads an individual to uh, conduct criminal activities. So I'll give you an example. As a police officer, let's say that I put an undercover prostitute out on the street, and I put her in a well-known location for prostitution. I put her there, and a John comes by, and the police officer comes, lays in front of the car, and says, "How you doing, big boy? Uh, you want to have some fun?" And before he even responds, she opens the door, some type of sexual act. And then out of nowhere, all the police come and they start surrounding the guy. They take him out at gunpoint. They take him out and they arrest him. And they arrest him for prostitution. Now, is that legal? Yes or no? Well, in this particular case, he would have an argument that he was entrapped, meaning that he had no other way but to do whatever it is that this woman was doing to him. And that is illegal. You cannot entrap people into doing a certain type of crime. Does that make sense? And so there's multiple videos on YouTube that you can watch where I'm sure you guys have heard of the show. It's called To Catch a Predator. If you guys do a search on YouTube for To Catch a Predator, you will see that they have a specific format in where they hire an adult, they put out an ad for children, they invite the individual over, and once the individual arrives, they pretend that this is an underage kid. They invite him in. Then they create this platform in where it makes it likely for the individual to actually commit the crime. Now, it may be argued, or as you will find out as you do your research, that him showing up doesn't necessarily mean that it's the completion of the crime. The crime could have easily happened already just for the simple fact of being connected to the individual, or the idea of being connected to this individual. So, for example, just the mere fact that I responded and that I had a conversation with an underage person online, that could be enough for the crime, or for a crime to have occurred, depending on the state that you're in. Or I guess what I'm trying to say is that the fact of him actually showing up doesn't mean like that's the last element of the crime that he has fulfilled. Now, are the cops allowed to use trickery? Absolutely. It's called a ruse. And if a cop wants to lie, he can do that too. Law enforcement officers are allowed to do several things that the law protects. Like I said, like a ruse. For example, let's say that we have a search warrant for a particular individual. I can actually call the house. Yes, hello, may I please speak with John Smith? Yeah, this is John Smith. Hey, listen, I'm a UPS driver. I'm outside. Maybe not UPS, because I don't think you're allowed to use actual company names. But you can say, hey, listen, I'm a delivery driver. You don't have to say UPS. Hey, my name's Miguel. I'm a delivery driver, and I have a package for you, but I'm having a hard time locating your residence. Do you mind coming outside? And the guy's like, yeah, I'll come outside. And the moment that he takes a step outside of his door, and let's say that there's cops outside, they can go ahead and grab him, put him in handcuffs. And he can make the argument like, hey, like, they lied to me. That was the only reason why I came outside of my house. That's how it is.
Just follow him back there. The party's back there.
Yeah. After registering in the lobby, this guy thought he was going into another room for a free DVD player.
Okay, man, congratulations.
But Chandler police had a different prize for him and 24 others who have outstanding arrest warrants, mostly for DUIs.
Our warrant officer realized there was a huge amount of outstanding DUI warrants. He sent all of these suspects letters to their last known address, informing them that they had been, selected to receive a prize, and gave them a time and location where they needed to show up.
Come on. You have a warrant for your arrest.
You've been caught up in the police sting.
What? You have a warrant for your arrest, ma'am. You're under arrest. No, you're under arrest.
You're not going first. Thank you.
This is a joke.
No, it's not a joke. You are under arrest.
What for?
You have a warrant for your arrest.
The officer or detective.
I don't understand. Why?
Did you have a ticket that you haven't taken care of? Well, they were pretty long.
Yeah, I think
Hey,
so,
let's
but I
explain it
don't
to you,
think it
Rob.
went this...
We're gonna
Oh my
take care of it
God.
now.
Some people were upset, others disappointed, but all seemed surprised. After they were cuffed, the suspects were loaded into a van and taken to jail.
After police officers closed up shop and locked the door, 2 more people showed up, banging on the door, insisting they be allowed to claim their prize.
And they were arrested too.
If anybody has warrants, take care of them.
because you never know when the prize patrol is coming.
Thank you.
She got a good sense of humor.
Best one yet.
It's a good way to not have a confrontation in order to take someone into custody. So law enforcement officers are definitely able to use a ruse and be able to call someone up and tell them that they're a delivery driver and that to come outside. And the moment that they step outside, guess what? You're no longer protected. You know how we talked about search and seizure, and we talk about warrant, and we talk about the expectation of privacy. The moment that an individual is outside of his doorway and there is no front fence or anything, there's no expectation of privacy. So then law enforcement can be right next to his door, and as soon as he comes out, they can snatch him up, and there you go. You can effect an arrest warrant that way without violating his constitutional rights. So that's something just to consider. I just kind of want to throw that in there, something to consider, because, like I said, it's almost like it can be entrapment. It may not be entrapment. The whole point is that I want you to decide. That's the main objective. I want you to decide if it is illegal or if it's not illegal, and give me your perspectives, give me your answers, but base them on actual law and publications that support or don't support this type of behavior. And there's plenty. But anyways, you can always contact me. You're always able to text me, call me, email me, and message me, and I can lead you in the right direction and probably even have a couple more sources for you. Okay? So with that said, I've covered the objectives for week 3. I hope you have fun with it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and...